Thank you for joining me in my video today. I'm cooking the most amazing beef goulash with some bread dumplings. I'm taking my culinary inspiration from the Czech Republic, and I've teamed up with Kristýna from the Czech Cookbook to cook this absolutely fabulous dish. Beef goulash is so humble, so hearty, uses the most amazing cuts of beef with a lovely tomatoey sauce and some lovely Czech dumplings. I'm going to do this step by step, exactly how Kristýna has done it. And I'm going to show you the finished result and how amazing and simple this delicious Czech cuisine is. Thank you again for tuning in, and without further ado, let's jump straight into it.
First we will need to warm up 1.5 cups milk. So let's put it into a bowl. And I usually put it in a microwave for about 40 seconds. But you want it only lukewarm, so make sure that it's not hot, otherwise you will kill the yeast. I usually put my pinky in just to tell if it's lukewarm, and this is perfect. So let's add 1 teaspoon granulated sugar and 1 teaspoon active dry yeast. And now let's mix it together so the sugar can dissolve a little bit. And now you will need to set up the timer and let the yeast proof for 10 minutes. I will be using my KitchenAid mixer, so let's add 3.5 cups Wondra flour.
The first step to Kristýna's Czech dish is to make the dumplings. I'm going to make some beautiful bread dumplings. I have about 600 grams of flour. I'm going to break 1 egg into this mixture. I'm going to pour in 350 ml of milk. Now I've used regular bread flour. Kristýna's recipe actually calls for Wondra flour, which is a kind of coarser flour. This is all I could get my hands on, so I'm going to use this. I'm going to put my KitchenAid mixer down and I'm going to put it on a slow speed. We want this flour and dough just to knead away. The great thing about using this KitchenAid mixer, it will do all of that hard work for you. And we really want this to rise, to have a good rest. So I'm doing this first of all so it can start that process. We're going to let it knead for about 5-7 minutes or so. Nice, so now we can lift it up and have a look at the dough. Now, a really important thing about the humble Czech bread dumpling is to add a little bit of stale bread. I've got some cut up cubes of dry bread here, which I'm going to drop in. Again, I'm going to put the mixer down and I'm going to let that dry bread incorporate with that lovely dough that we have. By the way, if you haven't done so already, it would be amazing if you could hit that like button. It really helps promote my content on YouTube. So now we've got our dough. This has been blended for about 7-8 minutes or so, so it's had a really good knead. And now it's really important to let this dough rest in quite a warm place, just so it can rise a little bit. There we go, I'm going to put a bit of cling film over and put this in a nice warm place. We're now going to make our lovely beef goulash. This is a really authentic recipe that Kristýna uses. She uses some onion, some beef. We're going to chop up this onion quite finely. It would be amazing if you haven't done so already to subscribe to my channel for easy and simple food recipes that I'm releasing every week. The next thing that Kristýna does, she uses a little bit of oil in a large casserole pan like this, and now we'll add the onions. We're going to let these onions sweat down for about 10 minutes or so they become gently translucent. We'll take a bit of the moisture out of them. We can give them a good little stir. We can put that lid on. And we come back 10 minutes later and you can see they've picked up a little bit of colour, become a little bit translucent. They're looking really good.
This looks good. Has a nice color. So let's turn up the heat for now. Let's add 4 crushed cloves of garlic.
The next stage is to add 4 cloves of garlic. This garlic seems quite excessive, but actually, once the garlic cooks down over the long period of time we're going to cook this goulash for, it's just a really lovely background flavour. We're going to add 2 teaspoons of caraway seeds. We're also going to add 3 teaspoons of paprika. Now Kristýna, she uses a Hungarian paprika in her recipe. To be honest, I could only get hold of this Spanish paprika, so this is the one that I've gone for. We're going to give this a good mix around. I'm also going to add a nice bit of tomato paste into the mix. Another thing that Kristýna does is she adds some sugar. She says that this takes away from the bitterness that the tomato paste has. We're now going to add in 900 grams of stewing beef. So this beef has a little bit of sinew in. It's going to take a good amount of time just to break down and become really nice and tender, which is perfect for this goulash, which we cook over a low heat for a couple of hours or so. Now it's time for some water. I'm using quite warm water here just so it doesn't bring down the temperature too much. Now in Kristýna's recipe, she uses 1.9 litres of water. Personally, I find this quite a bit, so I've used about 2/3 of this amount. I'm kind of judging it from the amount of ingredients I have in the pot, and I don't want to overfill this with water. I think the amount I've used is perfectly sufficient. And now you'll see, we're going to bring this up to a very light simmer, and we're going to cook that for a good hour or so, and then we're going to come back to it and check on it. Lovely, so now we've got our beef goulash cooking away, and I'm going to come back to this dough. I'm really pleased that I made the dough first because that has given it a good opportunity just to rest and rise a little bit.
Let's get the dough out. And now let's knead it for a little bit. Our dough into 3 equal parts. At least try to guess.
Now it's quite difficult to describe how to do this, but you're just using your hands to make that dumpling style shape, quite long and thin, but a nice kind of diameter, which will make a really nice dumpling. Great, so once I've worked it with my hands a little bit and shaped it up, we've got some boiling hot water here, and I'm going to cook these dumplings in the water. Here we go, so just with a spoon, I'm going to gently drop this dumpling in. I'm going to cook it for about 10 minutes on one side, then I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to cook it for another 10 minutes. So this beef goulash has been cooking for about an hour and a half. The meat is starting to become really tender, which is perfect. A really interesting thing here is in Kristýna's recipe, she uses some breadcrumbs, and this will just thicken it up, which is perfect because there's quite a lot of liquid there. We want to make it really nice and thick and unctuous, and those breadcrumbs will really help us do that. Now in Kristýna's recipe, she uses 2 teaspoons of marjoram. I don't actually have any marjoram, so I'm going to use a couple teaspoons of mixed, dry mixed herbs, and they'll work absolutely fine. So in total, I've cooked my beef goulash for about 2.5 hours. I did test it after about 2 hours, and the meat was still a little bit hard, so I cooked it a little bit longer, just so it's really tender. And to finish this off, I'm going to plate it up, I'm going to serve it with a couple of dumplings, and I'm going to garnish it with a little bit of raw onion.
This is looking great, so I will turn it off and I will warm up dumplings and then garnish it with some onion. Here is the goodness with amazing dumplings, and I garnish it with onion. And of course there has to be some beer, and the best beer in the world is a Pilsner Urquell, because Czech goulash has to go with Czech beer. And this is a original Pilsner Urquell glass. And I do make lots of foam. So let's try taste this thing. And I already know it will be amazing. Warm dumplings. Oh man, this is so good.
Thank you so much for watching my video today, and until next time, fellow foodies, happy cooking.